Welcome back to the Morning Beat. You know, there's a lot going on in the country. Clearly, people are protesting the Black Lives Matter movement from coast to coast. We can't think of a better person to have on the show to represent not only who we are as the LGBTQ plus community, but just who humanity should be and we hope to be moving forward. Please welcome to the program, Tituss Burgess.
My goodness, that is quite an introduction to live up to. I'm so happy to be here, you guys.
No, we're super excited about this. We had your co-host from Central Park, Kristen Bell, on the show just yesterday, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But first and foremost, we need a moment of levity. We need something to be excited about. You have a new single out called Dance MF.
Yes.
Please, listen, I need a moment on a dance floor right now. If it's in my living room, that's fine. Tell us about this song.
Well, honey, I wasn't even dancing at Tituss. By the way, I was sexily sleeking around my house. It's not what I think it is.
I love it. I love that. And you look amazing.
I was.
I wrote it with Dan Edinburgh and the young lady who's featured on it, Imani Coppola. And it was just for me. I was writing something that I was hoping would assist me through a very dark fall last fall that I was in. And I was in a very dark headspace. And, you know, my way into the world of art is via music. My degree's in music. I grew up in the church, blah, 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 blah. And so I had sat down and wrote a letter to myself. And inside the lyrics, or inside the verses of Dance MF, are parts of the letter that I wrote to myself. And I was just going to play the song for myself because I noticed it would lift me and sort of remind me just actually how good I have it, and that things, you know, the darkest hour is just before day. And I thought, well, if this is making me feel, and I had no plans to release it, P.S. So, you know, I thought if this is making me feel better and is assisting me in moving through some very dark energy, then maybe I'm not the only one who needs to listen to it. And so that is why I released it and put it into the world. And I hope people find it and use it as a means of exorcism, or however, whatever it's going to take to move you from one space to the space that you wish to be in. But that's how it serves me.
Yeah. I love that. You know, songwriting is my number one favorite, and I found myself oftentimes dealing with my own mental struggle or anything. I go to songwriting. I want to talk about, if you're comfortable, the darkness that you found yourself in last fall, because as we're coming into Pride season, it's difficult for our community to often live in our authenticity. And then when you have just the everyday struggles, I suffer from depression and anxiety. What were you going through as someone to maybe comfort people that are going through that right now, especially in this social climate?
Ooh, child, how much time do you have?
All of it, all day, all night. For the morning.
Let's see here. How do I break this down so that we cover, because that was a lot of questions. I found myself, so I'm a natural empath, and I am an HSP, which is a highly sensitive person, and that is a condition of the central nervous system where you take in, you're overly stimulated all the time, and you have trouble focusing, and things that are perhaps in secondary focus become in primary focus, and all sorts of things. You can read up on it. And while there are many pluses to that condition, it can be quite crippling. So that said, I had long since felt an unrest in the world, and my own struggle with marrying my public persona with what my private life is like, and then what is the obligation of a celebrity to at what point is full transparency needed, and at what point do you cut off information for the public so that you can do your own healing? Going through all of those things, yeah? So I decided that for me, my version of luring myself back to the light was full transparency, and I sort of tell all my business. And I talk it out with my fans. I do it on Instagram Live, and I post about it, and I try and make sure that no image of this illusion confuses people from understanding that I too, and that we are all human. And so, I've been seeing a therapist. I see her twice a week, obviously via Zoom. But so I've been doing that, and I've been writing a lot more. And as it relates to this current climate, that is a whole horse of a different color. I can only start with me again. What is the responsibility of someone with a platform as large as mine? What is the responsibility to my community, and what is my responsibility to people who are not of color to help bridge the gap and help them understand, better understand racial dynamics, and to help unpack what some still don't understand to be white privilege, or even I call it light privilege, because even people who are not white, who are lighter than the darkest of us that are of color, still enjoy a certain amount of privilege. So that's it.
Tituss, I think that's really important that you just brought that up. Like the idea of colorism is still very prevalent within communities across the globe. You mentioned that you're like, I too am deeply empathetic, and this is what every single one of my therapy sessions we deal with, because I hurt and I understand multiple sides of issues sometimes, but I'm also hurt by people. I found myself rage tweeting last night after I saw the image, the other night after I saw the image of the president holding the Bible. My partner of 8 years, son of a pastor, black man. I'm trying to support him, but I also know that I'm white, so I need to step back and allow him to process with his black friends and family. What sort of advice do you have to people who are just navigating this for the first time, maybe, while it's not your place to teach us white people how to evolve and expand ourselves in this world? What do you hope comes out of this movement right now?
Well, let me speak to the first part of what you're saying. This is not while this may seem like a race war, the larger war has to be everyone against racism. There is no two sides to this coin. It is also a war genuinely about human rights, civil rights. That said, people of color don't need white people to understand this. I don't need you to feel that for you to be an ally, that you must walk a mile in my shoes or even attempt to understand the struggle of people of color, particularly the black struggle here in America. You guys have had a 400-year head start to get yourselves together. But what we need you to do as a white male with the awareness that you have is to talk to your white colleagues and friends and family members who are not as aware as you are. And when you, at the onset of being a witness to a violent altercation, police brutality, or any unjustness within the black community, the quickest way I can teach you how to be an ally is to consider and treat the black person that you're watching being victimized by racial and social injustice, is to treat them like they are a white person. And what would you do if they were white? That's the only thing I can think to snap you into focus. Because what would you do what would the Amy Coopers, the Karens of the world, what would they do? What would they do? They would call the police and try and help them. And that is all. That is all that we're asking, is that you do not stand by idly watching us become victims of unjust brutality, but rather spring into action and think about us when you are voting. When you're voting on, yes, sorry.
No, please. This is your platform. You continue speaking. I just wanted to bring up, we are in Pride right now, and people are really confusing protests with looters, and I hate that, because correlating with Pride, we wouldn't have our gay rights if there wasn't a riot and if there wasn't protesting.
And the Stonewall riots were started by people of color. People don't acknowledge
and trans
that.
people.
And women of color, yes.
Marsha P. Johnson, honey, say her name. And honestly, I believe, even just as an ally, we want to peacefully protest. And that's what people are doing. The looters are totally different.
The looters are just criminals.
Criminals.
And planted, some are planted
police officers and white
police
supremacists.
Officers, and some are planted KKK members. And there are videos floating all over the place. There's one where a group of black men tackled the looter who was vandalizing the sidewalk. And I believe that was when they finally pulled the mask off, and he was trying to hide his face, if you noticed. But what was alarming was the police saw that man doing that, but it wasn't until the black man handed over this man who was not of color to the police that they began to spring in action. And so it does make it makes it a confusing time for all to know what side of the moral arc of justice are people standing on. But people, it's just common sense, it's common decency. While this is a multi-layered, multi-tiered, long embedded in the DNA and fabric of America problem, what it boils down to is treat others the way you would treat yourself. That's
it's common sense.
All it is.
It's common sense, Tituss. Listen,
it's common sense.
Listen, I love your heart. I love your empathy. Before we let you go, you do have a project that just came out, Central Park, and I wouldn't bring this up if it weren't so culturally relevant. I think that this is one of those projects, along with Kristen Bell's book she was just telling us about yesterday, one of those projects that is really important for parents to share with their children. Can you tell us why?
Sure. Well, so it's not solely about a biracial family, but a biracial family is at the epicenter of this show called Central Park. They're called the Tillermans. Tillermans live in Central Park, and the patriarch, played by Leslie Odom Jr., takes care of the park, and he has two kids. I play Cole, and Kristen Bell plays my sister, and we are biracial kids. And there's been some stuff in the ether and the web sphere about, why is Kristen Bell playing a biracial girl, but I'm playing a biracial boy, and I'm black, and no one has said anything about it. So people stop reaching. This is a show that all of us can finally sit down, and for those of us who have New York in our hearts and on our minds, as they are the epicenter right now of the coronavirus and the other pandemic that's happening concurrently to the long-lasting pandemic, that is racism. This is an opportunity to find a moment of relief and release while you gather your thoughts on how to move forward. And there are some beautiful lessons to be learned in this show. And there are jokes in there for the adults, so you don't feel like you're sitting there babysitting your kids, and there are jokes for the kids who feel like it's cool that my parents watch something so left of center with me. So it's something for all of us. But I think that's why it's important.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Tituss, I'm going to tell you something. As we gear into Pride season, the boards may be on the walls of the gay clubs, and we may be walking in the street, but we will be dancing to Dance MF, because it's so much more than just a fabulous song. It is getting us out of our own darkness. Thank you for your honesty.
I also,
sharing
Tituss,
it with us.
before we let you go, I also really quickly just want to let our listeners know your show, Dishmantled on Quibi, your cooking show, got renewed for a second. So thank you. Congratulations. Binge on Quibi. It's so much fun. You are fantastic. And listen, we are rooting for you each and every step of the way. So thank you. Thank you so much for giving us this time.
Yes.
You guys, invite me back even when I don't have something to promote. I would love to talk. Oh my
God. Just come be our co-host. You know what? Forget it. Just come to my house right now. I'm going to. Listen,
I'll talk to you all day long. You guys are the best and so supportive, and it does not go lost on me. And thank you for your desire to correct the country and to correct our hearts and our minds and to put us on a better course. It means the world. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
We love you, Tituss. Thank you so much, babe.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell for all notifications from radio.com. While you're at it, why don't you check out some of our other great videos.